Hungry Trilobyte podcast would like to acknowledge conventions such as WhedonCon. WhedonCon is a fan-generated charity event for Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, Firefly, and all Joss Whedon creations. It is scheduled for October of 2020 and is held in Los Angeles, California. Portion of the proceeds benefit the Los Angeles LGBT Center, as well as the Ron Glass Memorial Scholarship. See details at WhedonCon.com.
On mic today, we have Tonjia Atomic. How are you doing this afternoon?
Hi, I'm doing pretty good.
I am so glad to have you here.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, I've been following you for a while. I've loved a lot of what you do. You've got a makeup video section on YouTube. You are the director of Manos Returns. I just saw that a couple days ago, so I guess I should start there. It's kind of a weird because I'm not really much of a horror person as a whole, but stuff like what you did really digs with me. So,
Oh, cool. Thanks. I'm so glad you liked it. I mean, it was written by me, Rachel Jackson, and Jackie Naiman Jones.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was really a cooperative. I mean, the whole thing was a collaborative effort. All the actors and all the crew. Our other producer, Joe Sherlock, they all put a lot into it. I mean, everybody came at it with a labor of love sort of attitude.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we didn't have a whole lot of money, but everybody put so much into it that we were able to get, what we got with it. And I think for what we had to work with, we did a really good job. I think everybody did such a great job. And I couldn't, I am happy with my contribution, of course, but it really is a collaborative film.
Sure, and I wouldn't second guess that. But do you think that maybe not having a lot of money and not having a lot of resources is just in spirit with the project?
Oh, completely, yeah. We were actually, pretty happy with that, and some of the little, there are some little things that we consider like mistakes. Mm-hmm. That we kept in the film on purpose, not to be cheeky at all. I know some people, I've had some feedback where some people think that we're not trying to be cheeky. But we kept it in because we felt like it was mono-y. I mean, that was our whole thing. We really wanted to make sure that the film was as mono-y. That was kind of our term, as mono-y as it can be. And so anything that just felt right, it felt like it was in the spirit, we kept in there and we put in there. So yeah, we're not trying to be snarky. We're trying to fit with the spirit of the original film. So
I think you did that very well. And I'm immediately seeing I want hashtag mono-C on a t-shirt somewhere.
But yeah, definitely the low budget and the low budget constraints. We felt like fit with that, and we're all kind, like Joe and I are both no budget filmmakers. I mean, to be honest, we just make what we can out of nothing a lot of times, and we did feel like the low budget aspect was going to fit with the theme, and we just went with it. We just went with it as far as like what we could do, what things didn't quite work, anything that felt right. If we had like these big sweeping dolly shots and crane shots and stuff, I feel like it just wouldn't have worked.
And I think
like big name stars, that kind of thing. I just feel like all that stuff would have kept it from being as mono-y as it could have been. So
yeah, and when I first heard about it, not knowing anything about who was involved or why it was being made, that was kind of my first reaction, is that it was going to be a polished studio production, and I was just a very negative response I had to that, which I think is why I didn't watch it for the longest time, because until I got to know your other work and realized Jackie was involved, and I saw some screenshots, and it's like, okay, no, this is going in the same tone.
Yeah, I've seen responses online, where people are like, I can't believe Hollywood's trying to do this. It's like, I guess I could see that knee-jerk reaction. Like if I had seen, there's going to be a mono sequel, I might have, been skeptical. But when I see that, it's like, oh, no. we're just scrappy, no budget guys trying to, make a sequel. And we definitely were trying to make it technically well, because that was important to us, to make something technically well, something interesting with the plot. I'm going to take a liberty here and say with the plot that you can follow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that's always the case with Manos Returns, but you know, there were things that we definitely wanted to change, but yeah, really the spirit and the tone, we didn't want to go glossy with it at all.
When I had Jackie on the show many moons ago now, one of the things that I was desperate to talk to her about was the fact that Manos was the first, not really the first, but it was the first really good example of an independent film way before it was cool. So it's great to see it come full circle with people like yourself who know what independent filmmaking is about and know how to do what you did, and to put it in those capable hands and yet still come out with a product that's fun.
Yeah, that's what we were going for sure. Something fun, something that has that low budget aesthetic, but something, you know, where the audio is all clear, where you know, it visually cuts together, there's no jump cuts, that kind of thing. And just because we felt like, I mean, with the first movie, it wasn't trying to do that. They were trying to make the best movie they could, and so, you know, we thought that was our responsibility to do that as well, and not trying to pretend. You know, we felt like we had to be sincere when making it, because that was also Monosy, that was in the spirit.
And in both movies, there is a genuine creepiness to it. There are things that both movies genuinely do well despite all their handicaps, and the creepiness in both is spot on.
That makes me so happy. We were really trying to do that. What we were trying to do, you probably noticed this while watching, but what we're trying to do was start out with a kind of a lighter tone, and kind of not reference, but definitely acknowledge the fact that, like, there's some humor in you know, there's people that are fans of the humor aspect of the Mystery Science Theater version and that kind of thing. And we were trying to not ignore that. We were trying to acknowledge that, but have it feel like it was real world, like have it feel natural, where it's just the characters being jokey with each other. And we wanted to start out with a lighter tone, which I feel like the original movie did too. They start out with the, you know, family, happy on vacation, a little bit lighter tone. And then as the movie progresses, it gets darker and darker. And that's what we were trying to do. And, you know, we added some of the soul, because we felt like, you know, there's a big gap between films. So we added some things that we thought things would happen over time. So we added some souls trapped in the lodge kind of thing. We had, you know, lighting change. We had the story get darker. And all these things we were really hoping to actually get creepy, eerie. Because we felt like the first film does that. There's an eerie element, even though there are technical issues, there is an eerie element to the film, and we definitely felt like we had to have that in ours, and we were really hoping to deliver with that.
You know, there's I'm going to use a word that most people would not want me to associate with anything monosy, but I would actually say it's almost Hitchcockian, in that most of Alfred's movies started off with something really good happening. Somebody got a new job. Somebody's going on a vacation. Somebody just had a baby. Something really good just happened to set off the terrible events that follow.
Okay.
And in both cases, that's what happened with the Manos series.
Interesting. I never put that together, but I see exactly what you're saying. Yeah, it does create a good juxtaposition, which that's not exactly what we were going for, the juxtaposition. We were more going for having a journey, you know, starting somewhere and going on a journey. But yeah, I see that it does make the difference more noticeable.
And if we look at, like I said before, I'm not really a horror guy per se. There's a couple things I've gotten into, but one thing I've noticed is that you get these long horror series, and the first one is pretty scary, and the next one takes it up a notch, and then, like, following the third or fourth movie, they almost become parodies of themselves. You agree? It's like I almost noticed if this Manos became a series that you're following that pattern. It's like we have the first movie and it inspires so much, and then the next one, yours, adds to it, and then it takes it in this weird direction all of its own.
Yeah, I think, you know, I on set I would joke that, you know, next we were gonna do the the next sequel, Manos Returns.
Mhm.
That was more my joke on set. But, you know, I mean, we have thought about that, but I think we worked so hard on this one, and we're still working, you know, to get the film out there. But, you know, if there were to be more sequels, I mean, it could just go so many places now that who knows? I mean, there could be like a Clara side story, or there, you know, yeah, it could just go so many places that it could kind of fall apart or be
Mhm.
too much or get too big.
Mhm.
You know, we tried to make ours a little bit bigger than the first, but not too big. So it could
Mhm.
be more a simple story still. And I think that's why it works so well. And once you kind of go out of that world, you do have the danger of everything falling apart and getting hammy. I don't know. I don't know where this one could go. I mean, yeah, I could see that the world getting too big, trying to explain too many things, getting hammy, or focusing on, you know, like a single side story or something, and it could still come off pretty good. I don't know.
I'm sure you could come up with stuff, but not to give away spoilers because I don't do that here. But in both cases, everything takes place at a place called Valley Lodge, which I'm guessing is a lodge in a valley. That's not really explained, but I'm going to go out on a limb there. And nothing, you're not aware of anything that takes place outside of that valley. That valley is its own world that's cut off from everything deliberately. So whatever happens in that little bubble, you could write your own rules for that. It doesn't have to match any continuity anywhere else in the world.
Right, yeah. I was looking at it on, you know, when we were writing it on set, I would say, oh, it's kind of like evil Narnia, which we even referenced Narnia a couple times. Because it is you step through, you're not expecting, and you're like somewhere else. It's not really in our world. And I was thinking kind of like Evil Brigadoon as well, because I feel like it pops up, and we even had it, you know, pop up in a little bit different location. It looks a little bit different because it has evolved. And we wanted to do that too. We wanted to make it a little larger. It's been so many years. It's evolved. It's changed. And it's supernatural. And yeah, and you're exactly right. It has rules that don't apply to anywhere else. And we hint at that, I think, several times, and including at the end. It sort of touches the outskirts of its perimeters a little bit. But yeah, it's definitely not in our normal world. It is a supernatural place that doesn't typically exist. So so yeah, that's really interesting. I think that's one of the creepy things about it, about the original too. And then you don't, you know, the normal people, normal travelers, they don't get it. They don't know the rules. They don't know what's going on. And I think that's what adds to the eeriness of it, creepiness.
One thing that really paid off for me in a creepy way was that, you know, I've seen the original 6 trillion times over, and I came to my own theories as to how things worked and who did what and what happened to all these people afterward. And enough of those things ended up playing out in the Manos Returns that it's like, oh, apparently I'm not the only person that saw things this way.
Interesting.
And yeah, there were things that were...
What things? I'm really curious.
Well, like... Okay, well, I'll give, like, at the end when Debbie becomes one of the ladies there, like that is one of the best twists of it, is that, you know, and that time when everything had to have a happy ending, it's like, no, she becomes one of the child brides. And that's like, then she becomes this figure in the next movie. She's not saved. She's not redeemed. They just add to the disease of the idea, and that's fantastic to me. I like the idea that this is just this eternal place, and Manos is some sort of elder god figure, elder deity figure with some cult following. The spiritual part of me really wanted to see something specific about what that cult believed, but that might have gotten a little too off into the weeds for a lot of people. It was something that was appealing to me personally.
Yeah, we kept it vague on purpose. I mean, we sort of had ideas,
Mm-hmm.
but we kept it vague on purpose because, I mean, it just didn't fit in our story,
Sure.
as much. So we just wanted to hint at it a little bit.
And I mean, I like the idea that I always interpreted Torgo as being somebody who wandered onto there many, many moons ago by accident and just got stuck there and, thought Michael would just become the new Torgo. So I think I didn't know if Torgo and Michael were supposed to be the same person or not. Well, actually not, because he still had his hand missing. I forgot about that.
Yeah, we just felt like, we felt like Torgo was a necessary part of the whole Manos mythology. And also we felt like, because Hal Warren had passed away, we felt like it wasn't really fair to have a Michael.
Mm-hmm.
And it just didn't feel right, to have him in there. And that was something I didn't feel like taking liberty with, that character.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we have our own ideas about how, we have ideas of like how people get stuck there and how people might be able to leave there and that kind of thing. And because some people actually get out, but not many.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted to show that too. So, and also at the end of the original film, we don't know what happens to Torgo because he runs away,
right,
with his hand on fire, or his stump on fire, and I just honestly felt like he is probably a lost soul. That where's he going to go? Like, is he going to be able to get away? I don't feel like he can. I don't feel like that's something that he could have done. And so we had it like, he comes back, he's stuck there, he's like not dead in the way it type of thing. And yeah, it just felt right to have him be stuck there with the other souls as well.
I'm not in the business of second guessing creators, so I think that everything you're talking about was a home run. It works for the purpose of the movie. And like you said, we can all have our own ideas about details here and there.
Yeah, I feel like for me, part of the eeriness of the whole mythology is the unknown and the unknowing, and it's a little unsettling. And that was something important to us. We didn't want to answer all the questions, even though I might feel like I know the answer in order to create the backstory. I didn't want to make those answers that were my own answers the audience's answers. And they're also different, like Rachel and Jackie and I had a little bit of differences of opinions as well as what might have happened or what some of the backstory is. And we each have our own take and our own feel, but the importance is that it's there. We have our own like assumptions, and then we created this world that still has mystery. And that was really important. It's not because we, wanted to leave things open-ended or be weird or, any of that. It's that it was important to have the mystery, because I think that added to the eeriness, the fear of the unknown. And so I think there's some questions open to interpretation on purpose. And I think that is what worked in the original, because I think the original, we can all agree there's lots of technical issues with it, but there is a thing about it that grips people. Certain people are interested in it. And even if, there's parts that are dull or parts that are laughable, there's something. It has something. And I think some of that is the mystery, and some of it is the actors and the characters and visuals, but definitely some of it is the eeriness of what the story could be. Like, what is happening? What is actually going on behind this? And I think that piques people's curiosity and adds to the eerie element. And we didn't want to destroy that. We thought it was really important to keep that mystery in ours.
Well, it's also worth mentioning that in the late 60s, or mid 60s, I forget the exact year, when Manos was made, to take a cross-country trip and then get stranded somewhere was not a small situation to find yourself in. It was in many ways a life-threatening situation because there was no cell phone. And if you're in Lost in West Texas where it took place, it was like you were more than a day's walk from anywhere if you were in a bad situation. So that fed on people's primal fear in some way, that road trips were a much bigger issue. And you kind of dealt with that by saying they lost their cell phone signal and the map wasn't working. And, you got around the issues where it's like, okay, you put the modern audience into that mindset. But somebody sitting down in that theater when it was first released would have been like, oh, okay, they immediately know these people are in danger.
The funny thing is with the whole cell phone service issue is that's actually true of the area we were in.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get down in, because it's in Oregon where it's small town,
mm-hmm.
and once you get down in there, it's really there's a lot of like foresty area and a lot of like farmland and stuff, and you lose service. And if you are out there and there's small roads and there's not a lot of traffic and it's the same kind of thing, I feel like that doesn't resonate as much with modern audiences, like how you were saying. But it is a reality of being out there, and we wanted to use that to put the travelers like in the peril that may have been, because I think people nowadays are very used to relying on conveniences and might not know what to do, if your phone goes out. You wouldn't even think to know what to do, because those are things you just would look up or call someone. So
I'm curious though, to get away from Manos specifically and just the people you're working with, what's it like to be in a creative session with them? Because I follow you all online, and it's like I can see how your minds individually work. What's it like when you all get around a table with a pad of paper?
Well, when Jackie and Rachel and I were writing Manos Returns, I'm actually surprised at how easy it was. I mean, it was surprisingly easy, but I think it just sort of like everything kind of fell in place. I know, like we mentioned this before, Jackie mentions this a lot in interviews, but when we were making Manos Returns, a lot of things eerily fell into place and were easier than they should have been. I mean, did we have little pitfalls and things that were stressed out? Yes. I mean, I want to say that most of us cried at least once while making the film, but just because due to stressors and things. But there were things that eerily fell into place and were just so easy, and there were all sorts of strange things, like a lot of people knew each other in weird ways. A lot of the cast and crew knew each other in weird ways from before that didn't realize, and really strange. But as far as the writing process, we were using a shared document, and Jackie took on the role of writing the dialogue for the lodge. So she wrote her dad's dialogue, she wrote her own dialogue, she wrote Maggie's dialogue. So she did a lot of that stuff, and we felt like that was right because she had the connection to the original movie, and also her dad wrote his own dialogue for the original film, because apparently there was like directions written down, but there wasn't a lot of words, not a lot of dialogue. So he wrote a lot of his own dialogue. So Jackie had such a connection to that, and we thought it was right for her to continue that and write that stuff. And then Rachel and I just took turns writing the other stuff, everything else. And so we kind of took, a third of the film each, and one of us would just write and then come to a spot where we couldn't write anymore. And then the other two would come in, check it out, see what they wanted to change, see what they wanted to add, continue on. And then if there was anything, lodge stuff, Jackie would insert her stuff there. And then you'd come back to it. Like, let's say I wrote a chunk, I would leave it for them to look at and add their stuff. And then I would come back to it with their stuff in it, the new stuff. And that would allow me to move on with that. So there was never a time where I got stuck and couldn't go forward, because if I got stuck, I would pass it on. And by the time I got it back, then it would, get some gears moving, and I'd have something to have some meat to the thing that I could actually start chewing on, kind of thing. So it worked out really, really well that way. And it kept the process going fairly fast.
Mm-hmm.
And we never had a moment where, we disagreed. I mean, it's so crazy, but we never had a moment where we disagreed on anything or fought in any way. It was just really easy to have a back and forth like that. And I've never really had an experience like that. I've written with other people before and had really great experiences, but it almost seemed effortless, working with them in this way.
Fantastic. So why in general do you like making films? What got you into the industry?
Well, I've always had a love of, like, ever since I was really little, I've had a love of like TV, movies, music, stuff like that. I watched a lot of TV when I was little, and my dad would take us to movies all the time. Like when I was really little, I probably saw movies that I was too young to see. Like I remember seeing the Conan movies in the theater when I was like so little. I don't even know how old I was, but I wasn't even going to school yet. And actually, there's a funny story that I tell, because there's a part, I think it was the second Conan movie. There's a part where like he chops someone's head off and it goes flying through the air. And I was shocked that my dad would take me to something like that so
Mm-hmm.
little. So I turned to my dad and I go, "Dad, he just chopped someone's head off and it went flying through the air." And my whole thing was I was scolding my dad for
Mm-hmm.
taking me to that movie. And he thought it was the funniest thing. He just laughed. He laughed at me, which I think is really cute now, but at the time I didn't get it because I was trying to scold him and he wasn't taking me seriously. But but yeah, no, my dad was like an avid. He loved film. He loved all kinds of film. Like my mom loved like epic stories and things based on true stories, those kind of things. Like I remember she watched Roots, and I watched Over Her Shoulder when that was on TV. And I just have all these memories of that kind of thing. My parents were interested. My dad was a photographer as well. My mom was a dancer, and they both loved to sing. So that was kind of in my family, and I was familiar with seeing movies, and it was like just something that always interested me. Like I had my little TV schedule when I was little. Like this is like before I went to school. I had my TV schedule. I had to see The Incredible Hulk. I had to watch Wonder Woman. I had a Battlestar Galactica, and Buck Rogers was my favorite when I was real tiny. And I had my schedule, and I had to watch my shows at certain times. And this is like, I'm talking like I was maybe 2 or 3 or something like that. I was really little. But yeah, I was very into my shows. And when I got older, I thought I wanted to be involved some way. I didn't know that I could write. I never tried. I mean, I wrote like in school, I wrote essays and stories and things, but I didn't know I could write for like television or film, for like visual medium. So I thought, well, do I want to be an actress? I'm pretty hammy. Like I really like performing, and stuff. I do get nervous. Like I'm shy on the inside kind of person. Like if I tell people I'm shy, they're like, "No way, you're not shy. I've never seen you act like that." But I'm like a shy on the inside kind of person. I'm also very friendly, so it doesn't quite translate because I do like talking to people, like meeting people. But I am shy on the inside. So I thought, well, I want to, do some performing, but I don't know, kind of thing. And then I took a film class. I actually took a film program. It was super intensive, and I didn't realize what it was going to be when I started it. The 2-year program at a community college in Seattle, and I went into the program thinking, I've always been interested in like film and stuff, and I tried once to do like a little project before that, but I didn't know how to do it, so there's like jump cuts in it and all kinds of stuff, and it didn't come out very, very good. But I did attempt to do that kind of stuff, or like music videos. I would do that with friends when I was younger. But I got into the film program, and it was very, very intensive, and I ended up loving it. There were times where I would get up, I would go to the school the minute the lab was open, and I would just stay in there working until I got kicked out. And so 9 to 9 were the hours, and I would do that, several days in a row because I just got hooked. I was just obsessed. And I wanted to, finish my project. I wanted to work on stuff. I wanted to edit things. And I realized, I dabbled in kind of like VHS to VHS editing stuff when I was younger, and things like that. And I kind of realized, I always had a thing for this kind of thing. I just didn't know it. And so when I got into that program, I was like, yeah, this is the kind of stuff I'm into. And we learned all kinds of stuff. We learned in-camera editing. We learned linear and non-linear editing. We learned audio production. We learned scheduling, like just all kinds of things. We had acting classes. We had directing classes. And I excelled in the program. I ended up directing the class project and doing my own film at the end of the program. I did my own film, which I received a grant for. And that was how I knew. Like, I really knew, because it was the only thing in my life that I was ever so obsessed with that I put everything aside to do. And since then, I've just been hooked on it, and it's kind of crazy. It's like there's a feeling I get when I'm on set that I get hooked on, and it feels almost like an addiction. Like when I'm away from set for a long time, I get antsy, like I miss it. And when I'm on set, I feel like I'm home. Like this is where I'm supposed to be. And then I work. I forget to eat. I forget to drink water. Just work. I get so obsessed with it, so into it. And never had that feeling before. Like, I love music, and I that's something I can do on my own, is play music and create music. And that's the only other thing I've ever felt like that way about, where it's like it's not just something I enjoy. It's like this need. I have to be doing this, or I'm not like myself. I don't know. It's an obsession, I guess. Anyway, long answer.
No, I think it's interesting that you started off that by talking about being shy, because I found that a lot of people who are creative will often claim that, and they find that whatever path they take is something that gives them the building blocks to express what they want to say to the world, but maybe don't feel comfortable talking about it in terms that people do on a regular basis.
That's interesting. Yeah, for me, maybe music is a way to express myself that maybe I didn't feel like I could normally, like writing songs and stuff. Definitely, I feel like that when I was younger. For me, like, film is not just a way to express myself, but it's also a way that I've gained self-confidence. And not because, like, oh, look at this good project I made, everybody look at this. It's not like that at all. It's just like the fact that I'm creating it, and I can actually follow through, and I'm enjoying what I do, and it just gives me self-confidence just to be myself. And I think that's important, because I think before that I was afraid to ask for things I wanted. That was kind of a big deal. I mean, I was also young, like this is when I was in college. But when I was in the film program, it was finally important enough for me to ask for things, because I wanted it that badly. Like when I went to direct the class project, that was a big turning point for me, because I really wanted it. I wanted to direct the class project, and I've never felt that way before, where it's like I want something so bad that I'm going to put myself out there and actually ask for it, even though I may not get it. And it was that important, and then I got it. And from then, it was like I was able to kind of grow as a person and realize, like, what are things I should ask for, because it's something I want or it's important to me, and what are things I should pass on to someone else, that kind of thing. So so definitely I felt I did grow as a person because I understood myself and the things that I cared about, and how to ask for what I want when it's important.
And because you were willing to put yourself out there and move beyond your comfort zone, you managed to create something. And how much of that was giving back to people at your audience at large, where it's like you make connections with people who enjoy your work, or create new fandoms, or connect with people who also like similar types of art?
Well, I think, I've definitely made things that people have enjoyed. I did a couple other features I made, Walking to Linus and Plain Devil, and they both got accepted into a lot of festivals, local festivals, and people really enjoyed those. And it always makes me really happy. The thing that really means a lot to me, though, is with Manos Returns, just in the way that we kind of wanted to write it so it's sort of natural. I know there's some people that don't connect with the travelers, like snarky jokes with each other, but we know people like that.
Yes, we do.
And we want it to be kind of natural. I mean, they don't mean it in they really are friends. We wanted that to be important. They don't mean it in a mean way. They're just, that's just their way of connecting. And I've had people respond saying, there's characters in there that aren't your typical standard character, and they feel seen because of our characters. Like, somebody responded, and I don't even remember where, but this really touched me because Pat's character is a lesbian, and we wanted that to be part of her character, but we didn't want that to be a big deal.
Right.
Yeah. So we mentioned it like once. It's not like, it just is. And someone had remarked on that. They said, oh, there's a lesbian character in it, but that's not like part of the plot. That's her thing, and they don't make a big deal about it. And I'm a lesbian too, and I feel really accepted. And that meant a lot to me because I feel like that's really important. I'm a kind of person, I feel like we all need to work together. We all need to get along. I love everybody, that kind of thing, like love's the answer, that kind of thing. And it's important for people to feel seen. It's important for people to feel accepted in society when they are reflected in media, I think. And that meant a lot to me when I saw that comment. And I've heard people say that again too, like with the brides. You've got different sized brides, and I feel really comfortable with that and that kind of thing. And it just makes me happy, that people feel there's an acceptance in our film, because there is. We definitely, everybody who made it, we all became really good friends. We wanted to make it, even though it's this supernatural film with a dark tone, we wanted to have a positivity in it for like humanity, like in general. And just to know that people are feeling comfortable in their own skin and accepted because of something small that we put in the film, it means a lot to me. And I'm so happy, and I'm so grateful. And I think because this film has a potential for a wider audience, and I see it now. A lot of people have been seeing it now that it's on some streaming sites. It just makes me happy. I mean, I really, really hope that more, that's enough. Just those 2 comments is enough to like make my day. But I really hope that a lot of people also feel that.
I think I would be irresponsible if I didn't chime in on that last point you made there, because that was something that stuck out with me about the movie too. And if somebody's going to dismiss it as a little silly little independent movie and blah blah blah, intentionally picks off a bad movie, but that was one really strong point of the writing, as far as I'm concerned, is that the lesbian character is acknowledged as being a lesbian, but it's not central to the plot. And I really think that that's the next step in writing those types of characters, is just finding a way to incorporate their identity into the story without making it central to the story. And I think that that's something that when people say, and people don't tend to say this very well, but they will say, these issues are being shoved down our throats. I don't want to pretend I know what they're thinking when they say that, because it sounds very hateful. But what I think is often being observed is a lot of people are writing these things very clumsily. They're making the assumption that, if you're gay, that's everything out of your mouth is gay. Everything you do is gay. Everything you wear is gay. And everybody I know who is gay doesn't act like that. That's not who they are. So you write those characters and it doesn't feel real. You write a character the way you did, where it's just like, oh, this is just a part of who they are, like their height and their eye color and what they ate for breakfast. Then it becomes natural. Then it becomes right. And I'm hoping more movies work in that model than what we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I totally know what you're saying. And I feel like there's sometimes a tendency for writers to be like, I really want this idea to come across. And so instead of it being, it's hard to write it like natural.
Sure.
But that was important for us. I mean, basically what we did was we wrote a backstory for each of the characters because we thought that was important. With Clara, she's come through a tragedy. We know what it was. There's this whole backstory. She knew what it was. There's this whole backstory for Clara. And for each of them, for Pat, for Jay, for Nikki, they all have this backstory that we created before. And that was part of Pat's. And we were like, well, let's include that in the film, in the script, and have it be natural. And so we just included a little part between Jay and Pat, because Jay and Pat are the closest. They have a close relationship. And so we have them go off by themselves and have the dialogue. And I ended up shooting them where you see both of them in the same shot for majority of the time to show that their relationship. So yeah, we did have it in the backstory. It wasn't something we were like, we have to have a gay character, but it was part of her backstory. And we thought it was very important to have that, peek in there, but also not be a big deal.
Right. And, when you're friends with somebody, it's not a big deal. It's not, you don't mention every time you meet, oh, hey, Fred, my gay friend. You don't do that. That's not real.
Right.
And when you write it the way you did, where you can kind of, as the scenes go on and as the minutes tick by, you're like, oh, that character was hurt. That character has a mental problem. When it's not fed to you on a silver platter and you have to take that journey through the story, that becomes rewarding for the viewer.
Yeah, that was another thing. We didn't want to hold anybody's hand or force any kind of thing. And, there was a little bit of unsurety, like, are people going to understand what we're trying to say? And we thought, you know what? We hope so. And if not, it just adds to the mystery of the story. So, just let it be. And we didn't, and we thought it's better to under-explain than over-explain. And there's been a few feedback from people where they can tell me all the different points, the things that we were trying to come across. And so I felt like, oh, wow, we did do the right thing.
I would agree.
Because over-explaining, I think, kind of ruins the story when you do that. And if people don't get it, they don't get it. But the people that will get it, if you have to over-explain it, it's not going to feel organic to them. It's going to feel heavy-handed, and then they're not going to be able to enjoy it. And that's not what we wanted. Agreed.
Well, Tonjia, I know that you've got a lot going on, and I don't want to keep you too long because I really appreciate you being here. But I'd like to let you go and maybe get a chance to meet up again pretty soon.
Okay, sounds great.
Where can people keep tabs on Manos and you and all your adventures on the internet?
Well, we have Manos Returns has a Twitter and Instagram and Facebook page. It's just Manos Returns. You can look us up. We're on IMDb. And we also have our own website, monosreturns.com. And then the same for me. Everything's Tonjia Atomic, but it's Tonjia Atomic. And I've got, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook page, and website as well. So, we update whenever new stuff's going on. Manos Returns is on a bunch of streaming sites right now. It's on stuff I don't know even where it's on, but I do know it's on Amazon Prime, and it's been picked up for Amazon Prime worldwide. So I don't know when it's going to hit the different markets, but I know it's UK and USA now. So, and hopefully it'll hit all the other worldwide markets soon. I know it's supposed to be on some Roku channels and stuff. So other places unfortunately, I don't know. But, everything we do know, we put on our Facebook first. So our Facebook page is probably the number one for if you're looking for updates, and also for, when the DVD Blu-ray is going to come up. Unfortunately, we had to push that because of everything that's unfortunately happening in the world right now. So DVD Blu-ray, I don't know when that's going to happen because we had to push that back.
Okay. Well, I'm going to make sure all of that information gets into the show notes. So if anybody listening to it missed it, it's on aaronbossick.com, if nothing else, and you can find anything you're looking for from there. Thank you again so much. I'm really hoping that we can do this again sometime soon.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Take good care.